really is. By the way, did you guys see Slay and Steven Nelson? That another thing I would
Heard about it.
podcast talking about Eagles fans that went over well.
Yeah.
Steve Nelson, by the way, he's been really solid for Houston over the past two seasons. He said on the podcast. Now he's partially joking, but he said, "I had to get out of here for my mental health." That. And I saw a couple. I'm not going to throw them under the bus, but someone mentioned, oh, the Eagles should bring back Nelson Aguilar. Nelson Aguilar would rather set himself on fire than be back in Philadelphia. I think people don't realize we bring up Rasul Douglas a lot. Rasul doesn't want back in Philadelphia. Now, if he has no other options, yeah, maybe at that point, maybe anybody will come back. But if they have other options, they don't want part. Is this becoming a problem that people think it's so difficult to play here at times? Certain players.
Judging from, I don't think so. I mean, it's not broad enough to, or prevalent enough with the really good players to become a problem. But, I mean,
if you're good, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I look at stuff like that, and I'm just like, I mean, I feel very little sympathy for the Steven Nelsons of the world. He didn't play very good when he was here. He's turned it around there. So has Derek Barnett, who played great in Houston. I don't know why. He had the opportunity to play well here and didn't. But if you can't take criticism, the hell with you. I mean, I don't know.
And Nelson, I would get. Aguilar, I'd get. The two names you threw out, John, because he heard it a lot. He kind of deserved it. I didn't think it was over the top criticism or booing for him, but I'll at least acknowledge, he heard a lot of it. When was Rasul Butler booed off the field?
Rasul
Douglas. Yeah. That I don't get.
He became. I always say Rasul. I probably told Damo when the first day I met Rasul Douglas, he was the most engaging. He was just such a nice kid. He was so positive. He was polite. And by the time he left, he was so surly. I've never seen a complete 180. He was just miserable.
Yeah, a lot of him. I mean, he got when he had tasted a little bit of success, he suddenly got full of himself, and got arrogant, and I mean, he would get in. I had a few confrontations with him in the locker room.
Yeah,
I wasn't even talking to him. I was interviewing another player.
he would give crappy information to some report, and they're like, I'm like, oh, come on, Rasul.
Yeah, I remember him doing that to a young reporter.
I think it was EJ. I think it was EJ.
Bad information. Yeah. And then later was you don't want to get in EJ's face, but.
That surprised me. That I would suggest that Rasul needs to toughen up the skin a little bit, because there have been guys, and I've gotten in arguments about this on the radio. Ran him out of town. That's a phrase that is used, and it is overused. It's just the media and the fan ran a guy out of town. I think it's inaccurate.
Yes,
29 out of 30 times. 1 out of 30. Yeah, you might have a leg to stand on.
Nelson might be the 1 out of 30.
Okay.
Because Nelson, but he didn't play well though.
He did
he played well in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
but he
became a better player after he left.
Yeah,
when he was here, he was afraid. He'd be playing so off receivers that it was scary. I mean, he'd be 20 yards downfield for God's sakes. He became for whatever reason, he improved when he left, and that happens with a lot of players. The spotlight's off them, and they're not necessarily. There wasn't a big spotlight on Rasul, but the criticism's different in other towns. I mean, clearly Philadelphia is a little harder to play in than other towns because, I mean, we're more critical. And when I say we, I mean both fans, the talk shows, the media.
You got to toughen up. Yeah.
You go to Kansas City. Kansas City and screw up. They're not going to criticize you for a long time.
It's tough town, and I would feel zero. I mean, zero for Darius Slay. they offered you to get out of town last year. They gave you the chance.
Oh,
The Eagles may have
Slay,
used it
Slay.
as a negotiating ploy, but if you wanted to get out, you get out. If it's so hard and so bad to play in Philadelphia and they give you an exit, take it. You can't then come back and go, oh my God, it's so hard to play in Philadelphia. You decided to come back. Shut up.
Slay did not say he wanted to leave Philadelphia. Slay is not in the category of Steve. Steve Nelson said I had to get out for mental health issues. All Slay said, Slay's very honest. Slay said, yeah, they're tough. You don't see it in other towns, but he said he loves Philadelphia. He doesn't want to leave.
Okay.
But he's also very good.
I always tell the Andy Reid story. I always used to ask Andy when he would take so much abuse from the fans, from the talk shows, why do you want to coach here? You can coach anywhere else.
Yeah.
He'd say, and he'd look at me and like I was an alien. He'd say, the passion, I love it. They care. And that's, every player that comes to this town in any sport, they should be given the quotes from Mike Schmidt and either deal with it or not deal with it. The whole agony of
the agony of reading about it the next day. If anybody reads now,
you can't deal with that. Leave. Tell us now.
Still read
the thrill of victory and the agony of reading about it the next day.
Yes, people still do read, but they also watch YouTube, and we're thankful for that. We are thankful whenever Paul Damo chops in with us. Damo, thanks, buddy. Love the shirt today.
Thanks, Damo.
Can't wait for next week.
At P Damo on X, Twitter. Yeah, I don't know if you saw that, but it was interesting. Steve Nelson.
I didn't know. I was going off what you told me, and I thought you said that they were together bad-mouthing Philadelphia.
Well, no, Slay was on. It was a podcast, and somebody else was there. So I don't know who the third person was, but it was Steve Nelson, Darius Slay. There was a third person. I'm not sure who it was. And Slay was saying, what he always says. He says, they boo us if we're losing at halftime.
Shocking. No. It was Darius taken aback by the fact that they're booing when?
Well, no, he was just pointing out that you get a longer rope in most other cities, essentially is what he was saying. And then, which is true, completely true. He mentioned the chant of run the ball. They're trying to tell the offensive coordinator what to do, even if they lose yardage. So Slay's very truthful, but he also said he loves Philly, similar to what Dama loves the passion, doesn't want to go anywhere. Now, Nelson flat out said, and he chuckled when he said it, but he said, yeah, I had to get out of there for my mental health. And there are certain guys, and that's why I bring up, because Nelson Aguilar re-signed with Baltimore very early in the process. And I saw one person who shall remain nameless saying the Eagles should bring back Nelson Aguilar. And I'm like, I mean, there are certain guys that do not want to come back here. And Nelson would be at the top of the list. Now, he was treated very unfairly. If you think about the famous viral clip about the babies being thrown out,
right.
And I mean, he was treated very, very unfairly. There are different levels, and I bring up Rasul because Rasul, the change from Rasul when he first got here to when he left, was striking from a personality standpoint. There are some guys. Like Jason Kelsey, everyone says you should, he's the mayor of Philadelphia, right? He's also a Hall of Fame player. He's also produced at the highest level on the field. So one thing where I agree with players, there's this mentality that, if you just work hard, Philadelphia fans are going to love you. That's not true. That part's not true. If you just work hard and you're really good, they're going to love you. Now, I always use David Bell. You're a baseball guy, so you'll get that reference because he was a hustler. He was a guy who would run everything out. From a baseball standpoint, you could see how he would break his what on the field. Wasn't very good. Fans crapped on him. To use it probably a better for this show would be Nate Gary. I use him all the time. That guy just worked his ass off, but he wasn't very good.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, John, and you enlightened me to this well after the fact, that Gary was playing with a broken leg.
Sports hernia.
Sports hernia, excuse me.
Yeah.
He was severely hurt and played through it.
Like
and
the entire season. Coaches loved him.
Coaches eventually told you about it, but loved him because of his courage, whatever. That story was not widely known.
No.
So I don't think he's an example of Philadelphia should have loved him because he played so hard.
No, I'm not saying they should have loved him.
Nobody knew. I didn't know. The first time you told me that, I said, what? But Gary played hurt all year long?
Yeah, but you're right. That story wasn't, although others reported at the time, but when we did
while he was playing with it.
Well,
or after the fact.
No, it was after the fact.
That's what I mean.
When we found out. But no, I'm talking about the demonstrable nature of how he played and how he hustled and how he wasn't very good. I'm not trying to overstate. He wasn't very good. He's not a good NFL player. Coaching staff loved him. People said, "How is the coaching staff?" Now that I would say all the time, because long before they told me about the injury, they would speak very highly of him, and people would lose their minds and blame it on me. And I'm just telling you what the coaches say. And they loved the guy. And part of it was because of how hard he worked and all that stuff. So I only bring up the point because that whole trope of, if you just play hard, Philadelphia fans will, no. If you just play hard and you're really good, and they're going to love you.
Here's where you and I will split roads. I don't think you have to be really good. You have to have a modicum of talent. You can't be bad and just play hard like Nate Gary. He's bad. It's really good for him to be chasing down a guy 5 yards from behind that he couldn't stay with to begin with because he wasn't that good a player. He was playing hurt, whatever reason. But, oh, man, he really tried to catch him from behind, a guy who just blew him away. Of course that's not going to work. Nobody's going to go, nice effort there, giving up that 75-yard touchdown. But you ran all the way to the end zone. Good job, Nate Gary. No, you have to have a level of competence.
Well,
if you have a level of competence and you play like your hair's on fire, yes, I think they'll love you in Philadelphia. You don't have to be Jason Kelce, Hall of Fame level, to be beloved and play.
Well, you're probably right. You got to be at least a competent player. That's probably a better word to use. You got to reach a certain level. But when it is, the only thing I'm trying to point out, and this is completely fair, I'm sorry to every fan out there, if you're gonna shit on people, they're not gonna like it, and whether they deserve it or not, so they're not gonna like it. So you could say it's unfair, but they're not going to have a good reflection of the city and the city's fans if you shit on people. Doesn't matter if they're good, bad, or indifferent. That's just human nature. People don't treat you well, you don't like them. So when some of these stories come out, it's not a surprise to me, and I'm not sure why it's a surprise to some people. And again, if you're expecting Nelson Aguilar to say, "Oh, he's improved, we could use a third receiver," come out, he's not coming back here unless he needs the money and has no other options.
Which from time to time that does happen. The guy's forced to come back. But if you do, when you sign, know full well what you're getting yourself into. That's my only point. Guys who come back and then go, I can't believe they're still as harsh as they were for. What do you think it was going to change? You took the money, you came back, deal with it, big guy. Birds fans, have we got an offer for you? Here is your chance to save up to 40% on your car insurance right now from one of JAKIB Sports' great partners. Here's what you need to do. Call one of the managing partners, either Jim or Fran, and tell them you are a friend of both JAKIB Sports and Birds 365.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, Managing Partner at Del Val Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!